Hello, my name is Gina Mancini, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about how a person's personality can be reflected in their social media. With social media becoming such a huge part of life, it's allowing people to create virtual profiles. These social networking sites include Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. Studies have shown that it is actually possible to predict and depict a person's personality just by looking at their social media posts. By researching the different ways personality traits are reflected in these aspects of a person's virtual profile and their motivations for these social media posts, you can be able to better understand and accurately interpret a person through this ever-growing technological world. I specifically chose this topic because I am a double major in psychology and communications, so I needed to find a way to link both of my fields of study. And I've always been interested in the personality aspect of psychology, as well as the ever-growing social media virtual world of communications. This presentation is going to address the theories that have been thoroughly researched and to provide detailed explanations as to how personality traits can predict the way a person will use social media. First, we are going to talk about the Big Five personality traits theory, as well as some other personality traits that can help predict a person's social media behavior. And last but not least, we will talk about the uses and gratifications theory. First, I'm going to discuss the Big Five personality traits theory. This theory consists of 5 personality traits that every person has, and each trait is set up on a continuum. So a person can either have a high level of a certain trait or a low level. The Big Five personality traits are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. First, we're going to be speaking about openness. According to Beatty and his colleagues, openness is defined as one's willingness to seek new adventure. If a person has a high level of openness, they're seen as being more adventurous, and if a person has a low level of openness, they're seen as being more worrisome or cautious. Studies have shown that people who rank high in openness are more likely to use social media because they do not restrict themselves from trying new things. And this was found in Correa and Willard's study in 2010. Furthermore, Park and his colleagues in 2014 also found that open people use social media more often. But rather than using a self-report survey, they actually coded people's Facebook profiles for positive language and negative language. And they found that people who ranked high in openness use more negative language on social media because they're more open to being honest about how they're feeling. Next, conscientiousness is defined as the amount of organization and efficiency within one's personality. If a person has a high level of conscientiousness, then they have good organization skills and a good sense of time management. And this was defined by Kalman, Scissors, Gill, and Gergel in 2013. Stoughton, Thompson, and Mead, also in 2013, conducted a survey in which they focused on bad-mouthing. And in their study, they just defined bad-mouthing as simply posting something negative about a person in social media. And they found that people who scored lower in conscientiousness bad-mouthed more because they related to people who having a low amount of conscientiousness to having no filter. And that means they're not aware of their surroundings and they don't really care what they're posting because they're acting on impulse. Similar to Stoughton and his colleagues, there was another study done that also coded people's Facebook profiles. Hall, Pennington, and Luders in 2014 found that the more humor people use on social media, the less level they had in conscientiousness. And this relates back to having no filter. According to Correa and Willard in 2010, a person who is high in extroversion is an outgoing and talkative person, whereas a person ranking low in extroversion is more introverted and shy. In their study, they sent out mass emails and received around 1,800 responses in which they found that people who scored higher in extroversion actually use social media more often. Furthermore, Park and his colleagues conducted their language-based assessment and found that people who ranked higher in extroversion use more positive language on their social media. Moving on to agreeableness, Correa and Willard explained that a person who ranks high in agreeableness is a friendly and generous person, whereas someone who ranks low in agreeableness is seen as being less friendly. When it came to bad-mouthing, Stoughton and his colleagues found that people who ranked low in agreeableness bad-mouthed more on social media. And last but not least, neuroticism. People who have high levels of neuroticism are seen as being anxious, stressed, and emotional, whereas people who rank low on this continuum are seen as being cool, calm, and collected. For example, Hughes, Rowe, Beatty, and Lee in 2012 surveyed undergraduate students and found that neuroticism influenced the use of Facebook. The more stressed and anxious a person was feeling, the more they used Facebook, and they explained this as it being an escape from the real world. Now, the correlations between the Big Five personality traits and social media behavior are obvious through the literature previously reviewed. Although this theory cannot explain all types of behaviors that are found on social media, the Big Five personality traits theory deems relevant in attempting to explain how social media behavior can be predicted through the virtual world. Now, although the Big Five personality traits are an obvious predictor of these types of posts, there are several other personality traits that can be related to this. A person's need for cognition is another personality trait that has been studied in the past. It is defined as being one's choice to participate in effortful thinking. In other words, it's a person's motivation to engage in cognitive tasks, but also enjoy them. Zhang, Hardin, and Sun in 2011 performed their study specifically on the need for cognition, in which they surveyed college students at a large university. They found that people who ranked high in need for cognition actually use social media less. This surprised them, but they explained it saying that social media actually influences more of an emotional side rather than a cognitive side of their brain. Another area that has been studied significantly when comparing personality traits to social media is how often people will self-disclose on social media. A study was done at a mid-sized university by Jin in 2013, and he studied 375 undergraduate students. The researcher found that there are prominent layers to self-disclosure on social media. He found that people are more likely to share information about entertainment that they like and hobbies they participate in, and the least about personal health information. He also found that the higher a person ranked in extroversion, the more likely they were to self-disclose on social media. From reviewing these articles by Zhang and Jin, it is obvious that there are other aspects of a person's personality other than the Big Five that relate to social media behavior. Now, the uses and gratifications theory was developed to explain what motives people have for posting on social media. So in terms of personality, it is worthwhile to explore the connections between these motives and the way people's personality traits are portrayed. Loom, in 2013, defined uses and gratifications theory as being what causes a user to post things on social media and what they get from doing it. Similar to this definition, Efetkar, Fullwood, and Morris in 2014 defined this theory as being that people are aware and motivated by certain aspects to post on social media. Loom conducted his study in 2013, and he studied multiple phone studies, he conducted focus groups, and he found that there are 5 prominent motivations that people have for posting on social media. These included social and affection needs, getting rid of negative feelings, the need for cognition, entertainment, and seeking knowledge to increase cognitive abilities. Similar to Loom, Efetkar, Fullwood, and Morris in 2014 researched correlations between the uses and gratification theory and the Big Five personality traits. The researchers found that people who scored higher in extroversion were more motivated to upload more photos, as well as have more photo albums added to their profiles. This is because they are motivated to share their experiences with their friends and families, as their personalities are seen as being more outgoing. The research of Loom and Efetkar suggests that there are many motivations as to why people choose to post certain things on social media. In all, research suggests that it is possible to gain insight to a person's personality through their social media profiles. The Big Five personality traits have obviously been the most rigorously studied in this subject, between finding correlations between these personality traits and the use of social media. Much of this information came through surveys of participants in which they used the Big Five personality inventory to assess the personality traits. There were other studies presented that studied other personality traits, such as the need for cognition and self-disclosure. And last but not least, the uses and gratifications theory was explained. As previously stated, much of the research used was self-report, and there were actually few that coded people's profiles. So future research should focus on using a more reliable type of method of research. Another limitation was that there has been much study just on undergraduate students. So my first research question would be is whether there is a difference in social media use based on personality traits when it comes to different age generations. A third limitation was that there had not been much research on the motivations to use social media. So my second research question is an extension of the uses and gratifications theory, which states what are people's motivations to use social media in correlation with the Big Five personality traits. And lastly, there is definitely a lack of research studying the difference in gender, thus establishing my third research question, which is what differences exist between males and females when it comes to posting on social networking sites and their motives to do so in correlation with the Big Five personality traits. So in conclusion, today I first reviewed how the Big Five personality traits correlates with people's usage of social media. Secondly, I explained how there were other personality traits that were examined that also correlated with social media behavior, and these were the need for cognition and self-disclosure. And lastly, the uses and gratifications theory was touched upon as a way to explain the motivations for why people do the things they do on social media. These theories were used to explain how a person can better understand another person through the ever-growing virtual world. It is clear that personality traits and different motivations influence what people post on social media. Understanding how to interpret these in a better way can help us to relate to more people in this ever-growing virtual world. Thank you for your time, and here are my resources.